Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' weeks this week?
Third time's a charm. Mine was good.
I had the worst night of my recent life last night.
You get this third life that you have?
Well, yeah, I'm on my third life. Yes, I've died twice. And that's not...
We need to talk about that one of these days.
Yeah, that's the honest to God truth.
Or
I've
did
died
you see
twice.
some darkness? I don't know, bro.
I didn't see nothing.
Oh, that's not good.
Pure peace.
You know, I followed that up with a moment this morning that just kind of made my day. And straight up, I saw a sexy beast working on a sexy sign.
You better clarify what that is,
boy.
Chad, before you go too much farther.
Ready?
Yeah, there it is. So, but yeah, no, I saw Andy out in the wild doing his thing, working, and you know, it was just, I just saw a friend at the moment that I needed to see one, and it just kind of, I mean, I didn't even have to talk to him. I just to see a friend at that moment that really needed to be seen. So it just kind of made my day. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, it's nice having small town. You know, I've got to send a shout out. I went to On Fire Bar and Grill just 2 days ago, and man, it was phenomenal. You know, the people that used to own La Fogata food truck, they were my neighbors, good people. I was talking to the missus and said, hey, let's go down here and try this new restaurant. It was great. The environment is awesome. It's clean. It's just nice. There was good service. I mean, it was a very pleasant dining experience. And they were busy. I was glad to see that they were busy. I was kind of worried about parking. Parking was fine, the whole thing. It was just a great place. So I got to send a shout out real quick. This is a little blip for them. Nobody asked me to do it, but I want to do it.
One of my new friends in life just helped them get signed up, so they're going to be door dashing, man. So
nice.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome.
I'll be straight. I can't wait to walk in there and say, hey, I got an order for so and so.
Yeah.
And because that's, you know, honestly, that's a way for a lot of these smaller restaurants to get a little more business, right? Mm-hmm. Especially those places with limited seating like they've got, right? So.
Yeah. So, okay, before we go any farther, I just want to say, if you haven't been to On Fire Bar and Grill, they're located at 1400 South Kansas Avenue, Suite 600 here in Newton. If you need to give them a call, you can call them at 316-804-4004, or you can email them at onfirebgrrestaurant@gmail.com. If you haven't been in there to try them, get in there and try them. I've got to say, it's worth sending a shout out. Like I said, after we had dined and moved on for the day, I told the missus, I said, yeah, I'm going to say something about it on my program. So I just wanted to get that in before we got down the road or anything. But I want to get in. Really, honestly, we had talked a couple weeks ago. We've had a couple times where Andy's not on the program. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was the First Amendment. And I remember saying something about that on the program. But I just want to get right into politics here.
No, boy.
As everything's
right.
Yeah, no warm up.
as everything's heating, you better stretch before you got here, Chad. Okay, so we're all watching this happen. The election is down to days. So people are really getting out and voting. I know that I saw for the Harvey County elections put out. That said early in-person voting, this was a day ago, has continued. Voting is available Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and then Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2, and then after that, you just go to your respective polling location from 7 to 7. But these numbers are still out. You know, they're off the chart.
They're setting records every day.
They're setting records.
Amazing.
So, you know, I talked to Rick and I asked him, I said, Rick, who's our Harvey County elections clerk, or a clerk and elections official, so just on the election side of it. And I said, you know, do you think the numbers that we're seeing are going to wind up in the end being, you know, off the charts when it's all said and done? Or do you think that people are just changing up their voting habits? Mm-hmm. And I think we can all surmise maybe whether that's the case or not the case or anything. And, you know, time will tell. But so far, in the first 4 days of early voting, there's been over 2,000 people cast their ballot. And half the people that had requested an advanced by mail-in ballot have been returned. So we're looking at 50% of mail-in ballots already being returned, which means people got it. They turned around. They want to vote, and then also with people in general just getting out and vote. And I watch some national news, and it seems like they're setting records everywhere. Mm-hmm. Why do you guys think that's the case? Do you think that we're going to see an extreme turnout this election cycle, or do you think that it's just people changing up their habits and getting out and voting early?
I think my gut is telling me it's a little bit of both. I think we're going to see a pretty big turnout for this particular election. We usually do for presidential elections. We really do.
See a higher turnout.
Yeah, we see higher turnouts. And I do think, too, that there are people that have caught on that early voting is... Man, it's just straight up easier.
Yeah.
And unless you showed up on day one, and I'll speak specifically to Harvey County, unless you showed up at day one, 5 minutes before the poll opened, you're not having to wait in a big long line to vote. And I've seen some reports of folks that are showing up and they're getting there at, right before the polls are closing, and clerks are like, dude, I just want to go home. And I get that, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And on election night, when they just want to go home and they want to shut things down and they want to take things into the courthouse to be counted, they got to wait. If you were in line at 7, they have to let you vote. They can't turn you away if you are in line at 7 o'clock. Right?
Yeah.
And people know that. And so early voting is just a lot easier. You don't have to deal with, for the most part, you don't have to deal with lines that are hours long. It might be minutes long. I voted on day one, and I waited maybe 5 minutes to get in there because all the stations were filled. So that's my 2 cents. It's both. I don't know.
What do you think?
The question was, do we think we're going to have more of a turnout, or do we think we have more early voters?
Yeah.
I think the messaging has been very direct to the Republican Party in particular, especially for our area, but I know this is national, to get out and vote early. There's a lot of reasons for that. Don't want to get too far in the weeds on that.
Well, and it's a different message than we heard.
That is not tradition for our party.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the party. It's like
no.
Show up the day of to vote, and that's the kind of the process and how that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but now I think those ribbons have been broken, and people are coming in more than before. Especially, again, I will say in our area, we have the amount of registered Republicans versus Democrats is big in this area. So you're getting more of that, which has been interesting. I think the messaging is salacious on both sides of the aisle. It's pretty wild. If you're catching the commercials when they pop on, I watch stuff in the background, and I didn't notice it too much here in Kansas because I do a lot of my own streaming and stuff here. But when I was down in South Texas, places that they had the TV on, it's like traditional style TV. Still do a lot of that out there. And I got to see for the first time in a really long time the commercials in between the games, the ball games, the high visible spots that are in media, right? The traditional sense of media, right, Chad? You remember those things and when that used to happen. But those commercials that draw a lot of eyeballs, for example, the Cowboys game down in that area, you would have a Kamala commercial, then you would have a Trump commercial that literally spoke right against that, then you would have a Kamala commercial, then you would have a Trump commercial. And I was just like, wow, they're spending a ton of cash on those spots. Kansas is small. We don't see that here because we have like 3 or 4% or 3 or 4 chips that we pitch into the big number.
Our total population is 3 million.
So our marketplace, they're not going to dump a bunch of money into. They're dumping money into those hot spots when you travel to those areas, you kind of see the shift in culture and the messaging a little more aggressively, and that's the nature of those places anyways. So I think from the perch that I'm watching this from, I think that the last election of 2020, we had, I think, the biggest turnout ever. I believe this is a continuation of people being moved one way or the other, whatever their views are. So I think we will have more voters, and I think targeting the Republican voters, there's more Republicans showing up than ever before. So I think it, like Chad said, it's going to be a combination of both, but I do think we will have more voters, and I think we have more Republicans showing up because of the direct messaging to do it. And again, there's some psychology behind that, is keep people home that won't vote if they see the numbers are so slighted early. You have a lot of these games that are going on at the higher levels, which they're all tossing dice, but they're tossing dice with experience and with some habit patterns that they've gathered over the last 100 years or whatever, right? So they're going to do their best job to sway all of those percentages in their favor, which you should be doing if you're running a serious campaign. I just think some of it's silly. And there's a lot of wasted money and time on campaigns.
Well, and you think, and to say this, it is silly. I will agree with you on that. But I think it's very targeted, as you had mentioned. And I want to talk about messaging now when it comes to political campaigns. And there's a couple different things I want to cover. But just with messaging in general, I've talked about this before. And it's that, Trump is the devil. Go and vote for Kamala Harris. Trump is the devil. He's going to take your rights away. He's going to be a dictator. But also, the next commercial is Kamala Harris is the devil, and you need to get out and vote, or the devil is going to win. And they're both going to run the country, and they're both Nazis, and they're both Hitler, and they're both. I mean, I sit back and I'm an observer, right? I'm an observer. I study politics, but this messaging, it is true that it's very destructive.
It is true. One of them's the devil. No, I'm
hey, we'll leave it up to you to decide. Get out and vote. No, but honestly, okay, I was looking for something specific that I wanted to do a comparison, okay, and then get your guys' take on it. But I thought, man, you can't get any better of a comparison than this. All right. Recently, there was a article put out. I'm going to say here that I think it was BBC. And it was that the title says Biden angers Republicans by associating garbage with Trump supporters. So what you have is you have Biden over here that's calling Trump supporters garbage, okay? But in the same token, the same word, garbage, happened to be used during a Trump rally campaign by a comedian. And the comedian said that the island of Puerto Rico is full of garbage or trash. Okay, so we have the same word that's being used on both sides of the aisle. Both sides of the aisle are having people that are not the candidate speaking this divisive, and I mean, we could say humorous, we could make reasons or why that one said it and the other said it, and we can excuse it because this or that. But I look at it on the face, and it's that we have national news being made by both different entities and supporters of those individuals that are referring to people as garbage. What do you guys think about that?
Let the candidates speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Just let them speak for themselves. I mean, seriously. When you're sitting down to try and figure out who you're going to vote for, evaluate the candidates. Evaluate the candidate. Okay? I mean, here's another example. Okay, so it was all over X last night? Yeah, it was last night. The night I couldn't sleep. It was all over X
Probably
last
couldn't
night.
sleep because you were on X.
No.
It didn't help.
Get you all stirred up.
Boy.
I mean, we can talk about why I couldn't sleep.
When I need some adrenaline, I just go to X and we're like, whoa.
That feeds that hate machine, boy.
I was worried about getting laid off from one of my 3 jobs, and trying to figure out how I was going to rebudget to deal with a loss of about $1,000 a month. That's tough. But anyway, it was all over X last night that Harris had a rally, okay, in D.C. And inevitably, there were supporters of the Donald Trump campaign saying, "Oh man, she had a rally where the KKK had a rally in 1934. She's obviously." I'm like, wait a minute.
Not any different than Madison Square Garden.
And by the way, in 2020, Donald Trump had a rally in the same spot.
Isn't it crazy?
So come on.
But see, that's the thing is we're all coming from, and I believe this. We all have our own biases because everybody has biases.
I totally
it's just
have them.
the way it is. Okay,
yeah.
but to
I
understand,
do too.
to understand that you have bias and to self-check, self-reflect means that you're not a hypocrite. So we try, and I believe this about both of you guys, is that the three of us sitting here are not hypocrites. We all have the ability to call each other on the carpet and say, hey, I think this is, leaning into your biases. We all have enough respect for one another that then the person says, they said I was leaning in my bias. Am I leaning in my bias? Or, so there's accountability amongst us. But I'll say this, this rhetoric is almost laughable. But it goes back to what we talked about before on the program, which is my question. Is the message, the person that puts out this message, the one that's responsible, or is it the person that's consuming this message, believing this message without the claim warrant data? Okay,
it goes back
oh my God, I can't believe this is this is the thing. Okay, you ask a Democrat, okay, and what they're going to say is I'm not going to say, I'll put that brand on there. You take somebody that associates with the Democratic Party and that identity politic wing of that party, and you say Donald Trump did a rally at Madison Square Gardens. He was all over this. Oh, that's just like Hitler. But then all of a sudden, if somebody comes out, okay.
But who cares? That was 100 years ago.
Well, and then not only that, but how? I mean, it's not. Yeah, okay. So for sake of time, right? We're sitting here and we're saying that all of a sudden Kamala Harris is having a rally where the KKK had a rally
100 years ago. Yeah,
but yet the Democrat that's sitting there is only going to
cover it with more poop.
Yeah, the only thing that the Democrat is going to do is really here, because we've dug ourselves into these two lanes. Is, well, by God, Trump, he held a rally just like Adolf Hitler, but I can't believe that they're saying that Kamala Harris is somehow associated with the KKK. And then vice versa. You'll have the same people going, oh, well, that's ridiculous that they would say anything about Donald Trump being at Madison Square Garden and it being the place that Hitler had a rally, and it's so Hitler-esque. But yet, but yet Kamala Harris, look at her. She was over there doing a rally with the KKK. It's like, where does this start to click?
Yeah,
in people's brains?
I think just we're too close to it. I think because the nature of what we do for a living and the circles that we travel in and the things we do. I don't know if you guys remember an amazing human named Steve Kelly. I would consider him a mentor and a dear friend. Steve, I love you, man. I remember being a part of his team. And when there was a flyer that went out that was negative against his opponent, the one I which will not speak of. And
one that told
Steve
me to F
really, that one. I'm sure I'll get it eventually. And Steve, honestly, as gracious of a human being as he is, was so bothered by that because he had nothing to do with that flyer. He had nothing to do with the people who sent it out. That person was trying to be moved out of Topeka, I'm sure, by the other party because they were boisterous and loud and aggressive. And so Steve took the time to write a letter. I don't know if y'all remember that, and denounced that flyer and spoke against it. And that's one of the things that the messengers or the people that are at least in the front, because some of them have handlers. I'm going to tell you, I do not believe Donald Trump has any handlers in his life. That man is a handful by himself, to his own self, and everything else.
He has no handlers. He has no filters.
No. He's a New York East Coast developer. Yeah. Get out of his way. And he's a beast in that world, which is, it's saying a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just doing business in New York is a thing. If you're doing business at the highest levels in the hardest industry with the most regulated pieces of it, and you have a known knack of getting it done. You're the guy that the impossible people say it's impossible, that you're the guy they call when it gets to that point. Unbelievable. And you succeed time and time again, right? So this guy, right? So anyways, the other one has handlers, and they're trying to be more diplomatic, I think, in their approach with things, and that's part of what some people want, right? So you got personality types they're driving for here. But when you look at these characters, I think people like Steve had no control, but he had control after what happened later.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that, even because if you understand media and how things play, Trump, in my opinion, is one of those guys that lets it go, and so do most other I think all candidates. I've never seen one national figure step out and do what Steve Kelly did. You care about somebody, even if you have differences, enough to say, that's not right, I'm not going there. They could do that to me, I'll take it. I'm not going there, and I didn't appreciate that. And he wrote a letter to the public and to those people separately saying, I'm that's not what I want in my name for my person. You can't borrow credibility from a man like that enough, right? Because if he gives you a check mark, there's a reason why people respect that check mark.
Well, and honestly, okay, it's all clickbait. It's what's the most provocative is going to get the most publicity. So the question then becomes, when you're in the run for trying to get headlines of some kind, letting it slip or saying something that might be a little bit ridiculous is going to put you out there in front. And the nature of it is that people are going to be talking about it. People are going to, the people, and it goes back to this. If people, we are at this situation in politics. If people like you or love you, there is nothing that someone is going to say about you that is going to have any effect. What will happen is those people that like or love this person will turn around and say, oh, well, it's just these people attacking them. I choose not to believe that. That must be, it doesn't matter whether it's true or it's not true. And this goes to two things, okay? One, I just recently went through this with a political action committee endorsing me. I had no control over it whatsoever. No control over it. It's just what happens. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very hypocritical of people to then use a political action committee endorsement or a flyer against a candidate that it's advocating for, but then turn around in the next moment, and if you like the candidate, then any endorsement from a political action committee is great.
Lance?
Yes. I hate political action committees.
Let's do this. I'm actually creating one.
I hate them.
We all know that the dark money from the swamp helped fund your campaign.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes, of course.
Because of our power in this country.
Oh yeah.
At the Hardy County
the county commission is that big of a deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still contest, okay? And say,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, and here's the thing.
But this is the thing though. Here, your question.
Whatever you can use against somebody.
Is it the messenger? Is it the people getting? It's both.
Yeah. So we go back to what we concluded.
But you have to realize, open your eyes that these things are happening. You explained it so well about the crap on crap. One team sees the other team and they use it and they manipulate it, throw it back out. It's like, I got you, this one up. Nobody wins in those games.
Well, somebody wins an election. Okay, somebody wins an election.
Do you really?
Yeah, they win an election at everybody else's expense.
But do you really? Because look at where everybody ends up. Look where we're at right now.
Divisive.
Come on.
Well, I honestly say we are in, and I will say this again and again and again. We are in a cold civil war, people. We are in a cold civil war. We literally have deduced ourselves down to the point in which I'm waiting for the straw that's going to break the camel's back. Okay, we've already seen rumblings of it. People will do things that are completely out of character based upon rhetoric and hate speech about, it's not considered hate speech. It's your First Amendment right, of course. But I'll go this, okay?
Yeah, it's political speech.
Political speech. So here's another one, okay? Speaking of people doing things that are out of context. Now, this is going to, obviously come down to whether there was election interference or, we're going to blow this up to be something bigger. But the BBC reported and said, you can watch video if you look up BBC, moment U.S. ballot box found in the middle of road. Dashcam footage shows the moment U.S. election ballots were found in the middle of the road in Cutler Bay, Florida. A sealed bin and sealed bag of ballots fell off the back of an election worker's truck and were discovered by a passing car. The ballots were taken to a local police department where election staff verified all items and seals were intact. The county's election supervisor said that the ballots had already been scanned and tabulated at the South Dade Regional Library's early voting site. Despite the incident occurring due to a human error, the elections department said the worker responsible has been fired. Now, you know what that means? That means that guy was so, or that gal, or that person was so angry because they assumed that those ballots were for one candidate or the other, that they allowed for that ballot box to fall off the back and not have those counted. So this just plays into the rhetoric once again, whether that be true or not, and it could just be an accidental human error, but people are not going to believe that. What they're going to believe
be planted
is
just for the purposes of media picking it up and talking about it to create doubt. There's so many angles. I mean, how many times did we see these riots and you see pallets of bricks literally sitting in a downtown corner where there was no construction going on?
Yep.
I mean, this was real stuff that happened. This is not maybe. This stuff happened. And so when you see stuff like that, you're wondering, what is that meant to do? So our teams on both sides, Republican and Democrat, war games, they war game a lot of stuff. There's actually public records out there of the war games and what they've done. And some things have been sent and that were leaked that go back to being authentic information on what happens.
We had, within the last week, we've had, I believe, 4. Go ahead and fact check me on the number, okay? We've had 4 ballot boxes that have been lit on fire.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Yeah. Conversation at the county commission this week was, why would somebody do that? Doesn't make sense. You don't know who's been voted for in that ballot box.
Right.
You could be destroying ballots that were for the candidate that you support.
But you just go back to whatever the vote was the last election and then assume.
Well, but here's the deal. Straight up, I don't believe for 1 second that whoever it is lit them things on fire and put bombs in them and whatever else they did was motivated to do so based on what ballots they thought were in the box.
Good call.
Agree.
Okay?
Maybe they're just somebody that's pissed off with the way things are.
They did that so some dude in Newton, Kansas would talk about it.
Yes.
And sow the seeds of doubt about this whole election.
Yeah, because
so the importance of the conversation at the county commission is actually the response by Rick Pifo, who said quite bluntly, every ballot is tracked.
What's it scanned?
Every ballot is tracked. So, and in some of those states, they're all mail ballot states. Okay? So one of the things he said was, if your choice is between mailing your ballot or dropping it off at the ballot box that's over at the courthouse, you should drop it at the ballot box that's at the courthouse, even after people have been bombing these things. Why? The reason why. Number one, when you mail your ballot, it could travel thousands of miles and be handled by hundreds and thousands of people in the mail system. When you drop it off at the courthouse, it travels 500 feet and it's handled by one person. And
public safety alert.
Yep.
Public safety alert. The Harvey County Emergency Operations Center will be standby for noon until midnight.
oh yeah, we're high wind and fire and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
boy, I thought maybe
it
it was a tornado bearing down on us.
I was getting ready to go. I got a safe
all
room.
of us get hit at the same time.
Pretty quick. Just take my little cats with me and get my dogs in there. We'll be all right.
Hey, just make sure you go to the highest level of a steel building.
So to finish that up,
talk about misinformation.
yeah. So to finish that up, he makes the point that every ballot is tracked. So if somebody were to do something stupid at the county courthouse, and for the people who did the stupid things in Washington, every ballot is tracked. So if you think that your ballot was affected, call them up, get a provisional, go ahead and fill it out and hand it back to them, right? Because on election day, they're going to know whether or not the mail ballot that you received was submitted or not.
I gotta say, I don't know about that.
They're
Chad,
gonna
but
know.
That's why I say this.
They're gonna know whether if there is any remnant of the ballot. These are Rick's words. If there is any remnant of the ballot, they will know whose ballot that was.
I'm gonna.
So
wait till you're done.
What will happen is whatever ballot is readable and countable will be counted. So if it's the original ballot, that's what's going to count. The provisional gets thrown away.
Can I pull a lance real quick?
Sure.
I heard.
I was going to do it. I was going to do it. No, I was going to do it. Go ahead. Go ahead. You take it. You take it. Breaking news. Breaking news.
I heard that the reason they're putting bombs in there was because they want people to mail in their ballots because they found a way to rig the mail-in part of it.
Yeah.
So if they put bombs in there, people are going to start mailing them.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And I just thought while we were talking, I mean, now throw this out here, okay? I mean,
and how many other thousands of ways, and that's where, to your point, I believe they're doing things like this. Trust me, there's black ops going on all around all of these on both parties, strategies.
Sowing the distrust.
Yes, and that's why we're so divided.
Yep.
And we've got to be careful and just be vigilant that, yeah, some of these things are plants and some of them just happen, but it's our responsibility to take a deep breath, step back, and go, what's happening in my circle?
What can I control?
And stop putting what's happening in Washington's politics at our local school board. Now, are there problems that trickle into us from that? Yes. And I could go off on that, but I won't do it today.
But don't you know, Andy? I mean, don't you know? And this is the thing that drives me insane. Okay? Insane. And it's that, and we did talk a little bit before the program about this, but it's the fact that the president is not the dictator in chief, people. It really is a problem that we're having in society right now, which is that because we have all of these issues. Now, this is international politics. I studied this, okay? In times of turmoil, when economies are on the brink, when natural disasters are happening, when people are needing decisive, speedy decisions to be made, right? Say in COVID, it came out in COVID-19 pandemic, okay? People polled were desirous of more of a dictator style of a regime because its turnaround to the response for them would be faster. It would be better if just one person was making the decision.
They want
to be
decisions,
done, right? And so because we have Congress, we're a representative democracy, right? Then we have, Congress, and we have the executive branch, and we have the judicial branch, all which fight at war with one another. I mean, really is what happens. But it comes down to this, okay? No matter how much you love a president, no matter how much you think this president's going to be the end of all, no matter how much you think this president's going to change this, that, or the other, the truth of the matter is look at Congress, because that is the way our system is designed. I've heard, and I just got to say this, okay, just to not be a hypocrite, but if I hear Bidenomics one more time, okay, as a reason that you need to vote for Trump, that is a complete farce. It's a complete farce, okay? It comes back to this. Who writes the checks? Who's responsible for spending that takes place in our country? It's Congress. It's Congress. If you have a problem with the way things are going in our society, point your finger at your own congressman. And you know what'll happen? When you go to your congressman and you say, hey, I've got this whole thing figured out, and I believe that you have a more important job, and I want you to be more accountable, then it immediately, and it happens every time, oh, no. I would be able to do this if it wasn't for all the Democrats that were trying to prevent it from happening. Or no, I would be able to do this if it wasn't for all those mean, dirty, nasty Republicans. And it's like, I mean, are we just all on the hook? There is truly a lack of understanding of how our government operates. And if you would really just let the blame lie where the blame should lie, then you'd be looking at your congressman. You'd be looking at Congress and what Congress is doing. You know, the president only
or
gets
not doing.
Or not doing, right? See, the president...
And why?
Yeah.
Why? And there becomes
mutually
I gotta
assured
win
destruction.
an election.
Yep.
I gotta play this game. I've gotta.
It's Biden.
And it's unfolding, peeps.
Bidenomics.
I need to win this election.
No, it's not. It's
so
you.
I need this to be an issue during the election season. So, oh, by the way, Congress, this is what you need to do to support that.
Yeah.
And it can be pass this bill, or it can be don't pass this bill.
How about a 1,000-page bill? How about that? Let's get down to that. Is the way they operate is so frustrating.
It's complex and confusing
and
to
make it that
confuse
way.
the consumer.
It goes,
yes.
And most people give up with 5 pages, and they know when they bury something in a ridiculous thing, and the people behind the scenes get their little piece met with some kind of other little, I will give up on that to get what I need here. And all of that goes on, it's a mess.
Oh, and that,
as long as I'm bringing home the bacon, as long as I'm getting
state
funding for my
legislature
state,
is a master of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it happens at happens at a state level as well.
And they even have a name for it. It's called Christmas tree. The Christmas tree. And sometimes bills get Christmas treed to the point that they can't be passed. And sometimes bills get Christmas treed at 2:00 in the morning when we have to have something. They're a freaking master of it.
And it's always the other person. You know, I didn't want to do that. I mean, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to vote for that. But, I mean, it had this in it, which was really good. And there was nothing I could do about this.
Hey,
it's not my
Hold
fault.
on,
Vote for me. I'll go work harder for you.
But
Lance, it's
Lance,
a joke. It's a joke.
If you do this part, and I do this part, what you could say to your people is this. And then you tell me what I can say to my people, and we war game that to exhaustion at a $500 dinner on our dollars, by the way, until we figure out how we can help each other to go home and answer that question in a way that you can't really argue with it. And distract the real conversation from what's really happening to what you know that person in front of you really wanted. So most of these people have 4 different things that they know when you come up to me, it's going to be one of these 4 things. But the reason I did it was because of this thing. And this thing is for you. And it'll distract you because then you just need to know that I had your back.
Yeah. I was trying.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll keep trying.
This sleight of hand that they
and you
do
know what?
is so unbelievable. And people keep sending them up.
Yeah.
And we want to complain and beat up each other. And you're on it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And the people that go in that want to fix it start getting molded at the state level. And you've got to figure out where to find the champions to break that, or get them an opening, or have them understand how to blend better and then be more honest at the end of the day. Because I've seen people, I've seen friends of mine come back shocked and having to do things that they have to do, but be shocked. And I've seen other people have friends that have completely changed. And I have particular friends that said, don't let that happen to me. And I promised that I wouldn't let that happen. So there's a balance between all of that. But the system is what it is. And we're at the bottom. We're a spoke on the wheel. And until we realize that you got to love your neighbors and you're going to have differences in America, the beautiful thing about this thing is we have all kinds. And when you start hating the people next door to you, because you don't even know them, but you see a sign in their yard, you got a problem. Speaking
of signs in yards, Andy. Okay. Post put out on Facebook, one of the community pages here locally. And some paraphrase it because I didn't screenshot it to bring it, but it came down to the fact that, hey, there's a lady in her 50s.
Saw that.
Is walking down a certain Old Main here in our community, and they're just picking up campaign signs and throwing them underneath the bridge. We talked about this last week, didn't we, Chad? Where we talked about the way people.
I don't have a whole lot to say about this one.
So here's my thing.
Are you related?
No, I heard a rumor that it was Chad's wife.
Every time.
Send it.
Oh man, breaking news.
There's a clip right there.
Well,
Newton,
my
Kansas
wife ain't in
editor.
her 50s. Sorry. I married young. So
You wanted somebody to take care of you at your old age, huh?
pretty much every single time this whole thing with campaign signs come up, I say the exact same freaking thing, and I hope at some point it gets through.
That look. Give me the look.
That's me filtering because I want to drop an F-bomb right now.
Who the are you talking about?
I saw the filter come over.
I really want to drop an F-bomb right now. It happens every election.
Yeah.
Every single one. And every single one, I say the exact same thing. And at some point, it needs to get through to you boneheads.
Put razor blades on them. Oh,
Here it is.
That's not what you're saying?
When you do that crap, it says more about the candidate that you support than that the candidate that you are victimizing.
They ain't listening.
Not to that part.
Dead freaking serious.
Not me. Not me.
Okay? So if you have
I'm trying to save the world. Y'all don't understand.
Yeah. Honestly, if you have so little faith in your candidate that you think the best way to help them win is to go steal, vandalize, and destroy campaign signs, before you walk out the door to do it, just have this one thought. Maybe I should just sit my ass on the couch and watch TV.
Yeah, but there's people that
Well,
are
that's
pretty
what's
sick,
getting
bro.
you angry. I
There's-
mean,
there's
doing
sick
that's
people.
getting you angry enough to go out and steal signs. So speaking of media and people and campaign signs, this all stems back, okay, to our First Amendment right? It is my First Amendment right of free speech to, on my own property, put a political campaign sign, whatever that might be, to advocate for or against in this political process. And so somebody's effort to go and steal a sign out of somebody's yard is nothing more than an overt act of suppression of free speech. Okay. And speaking of free speech, right? And I wanted to cover this a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to wait for Andy to get back on the program so we could get him involved in this catastrophe of a mess. But
What are y'all sending?
where I'm at,
no idea.
I didn't
Some
give
point
anybody
we
any
need to talk-
notice.
Okay.
At some point, we need to talk about local elections. But anyway.
Yes, yeah, okay, and I'll just say this, okay, and we can do just a brief 5 minutes on this, but I'm starting to notice, I mean, blatantly, that it's blatant that people only want for their free speech to be protected, yours be damned. What do you guys think about that? Is that a correct assumption of mine? I mean, it goes back to this. It goes back to what we were talking about, the hypocrisy.
Look at what's happening on X and what was happening on X. And now people are pissed off because people get to do what they do. It's like calling on a telephone. Would you want AT&T canceling your service because you said the wrong name when they're monitoring you in the background? And so now they cancel your service just because you said Kamala and they don't like that, so they cancel it. And what are their responsibilities to that, and what aren't their responsibilities to that? And you just get into this big old entanglement where it's hypocrisy because of this, and you believe in this, but you don't believe in that. Again, the crap on crap, right? Both sides find their arguments to this exact thing that you're bringing up that's a problem right now. But is it really a problem? I think it's a problem when there's proven information that mass voices are subdued and put down and throttled when the government is literally talking to these companies behind the scene and back channels and paying them money for the time it's taking them to sift through all this stuff. I mean, that's just wrong. Yeah. It's so un-American. And I don't have to like what you say, but I'm going to fight for your ability to say it. Especially when I don't agree, because that's where the real crap comes out, the good stuff.
Well, how about
that's what America's about.
I'll say this. How about
That's
things
what the
that,
First
if I don't-
Amendment.
if I
that
don't
is
like
what
it-
the First Amendment is about.
If you don't like it, remove yourself from that community or those individuals. But it's their right to do it, man.
I mean, when the Harvey County Commission decided that they wanted to start opening the meetings with prayer, there is a First Amendment right there, and it's at play. And we sat and I don't know if we did on the program, but I know in conversation we sat and questioned, are they going to be willing for a Satanist to walk in the room?
No.
Well, yeah, they should
They
be.
have to
Unfortunately,
be.
Well, something tells me.
Well,
I'll just go with
legally,
this.
have
legally
to
you get
be.
sued if you
I
don't.
might,
but-
well, I'll say this. I might have picked up on something. I'm not 100% sure. But one time when I was in a commission meeting, and this is what I came to believe, so this is not fact by any stretch of imagination. I'm not going to say this is fact. But I'm sure I could go check this out. But it almost sounded, okay, as though there was about 5, maybe 6 pastors, maybe 4 pastors of Christian churches that they had sign up to come in the first week, the second week, the third week, the fourth week. So if you do that and then you just put that out for a year, okay, then that means that for an entire year, I'm sorry if you're a Satanist and you want to come in here and you want to make a prayer, we're already booked.
Well, fine.
As long as the legalese cover it, but at the end of the day,
I'm just saying.
At the end of the day, the
I have
answer
threatened to
is
sign up myself because I'm ordained by the First Church of the Latter-day Dude.
Oh, I
Okay.
was
That's pretty cool.
Say, I thought you were gonna say
nah.
it was spaghetti.
I
God in the
actually
sky.
have 2 ordinations. One is the First Church of the Latter-day Dude, and the other is from American Marriage Ministries.
Would you marry my cats?
No.
Oh, come on.
Why not?
We ain't in a free country.
Don't you know that cats are just as valuable as people? Chad?
I'm just.
Are you saying that animals don't hold as much value as people, Chad?
Okay. What if my cats are actually kind of not cats, but I'm going to say they're cats because they identify as cats?
Now we're getting into the weeds here.
Okay, I'm stopping.
But I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean,
I have the right to say no.
oh, he's
I'm
now
saying no.
Yeah, he's just
I'm gonna sue
discriminating
you
against
because
you.
you don't want to make my cake.
So, well, you didn't ask for a cake.
What?
I don't care. I'm putting it in the lawsuit somewhere.
Yeah, right. He just did. I'm a witness to it. It's on
See?
camera. He asked for
We'll
a
get
cake.
it notarized. Me and you will go get that notarized,
Yeah,
and you're
real
in
quick.
trouble.
You want a cake for the party? You know, I might be able to do that. But I don't really want to marry a couple of cats.
But how do you know that
they
the cats are consensual?
Well, exactly. They can't really communicate with me. What? So, talk about getting off on a tangent.
but they're cats.
They're cats, don't you know? They're just like people. Okay, so speaking of First Amendment and whatnot, then just brushing over that a little bit, and I think we need to take a deep dive on that one of these weeks here soon. Moving on to what Chad was saying and talking about local elections and something that I wanted to pick your guys' brains about. Now, I just had a disclaimer here, okay? We're going to talk about local elections, and we're hopefully everyone will give who they think will wind up being the winner, if you want to look at it that, between each of these elections, okay? With our District 2, our State Senate, our 72nd, our 74th, and then the percentage margins of why, even the alcohol sale without 30% requirement of food, and just tell me, and I'll run around the circle to make sure. Who do you think will win, and what do you think the percentage margins will be? And like I said, we're just having fun in predicting this, okay? So don't come back on us and say, "Oh, you're wrong" or whatever.
Your poll was wrong.
I mean, we could actually gamble on this if we wanted to. Can we not?
I need to make a preface here. I've already voted.
Okay,
but
My answers to these questions will not reflect my ballot.
fair enough, because I've already voted. Same thing.
and
I mean, they
also
just
maybe
not,
withdraw your. I don't know. Maybe you want to infer or just say that you're just throwing it out there for
And
fun.
I'm not asking.
This doesn't represent your brand.
And because of what I do for a living,
Yes.
this is not an endorsement.
Yes.
In any
no,
way,
no,
shape, or form.
Okay, yes,
This is an analysis of
Yes,
the election.
yes.
This guy's sitting around giving your 2
Yeah.
cents
That's right.
on what
And
you've seen.
It doesn't matter how you vote.
No endorsement.
Okay, this does
So-
not matter how
and-
you
and-
voted,
and you know-
or what you want to happen.
You
This is
know that
strictly
there are
just
people
of what
that
you
are
think will
out there
happen.
that are going to want to clip these little things.
Oh yeah, they are.
Clip away.
Well,
clip
did
away.
you hear what Chad said?
Hey, guess what? That's
And that's
just
fine.
that's more views for
You
us.
know? Yeah, exactly. But anyway, ask away, Lance.
Okay. Both of you guys, and we'll just go Chad, and then we'll go Andy in both these situations, and then we'll come full circle. Okay. The 30% no requirement for food sales, alcohol on the ballot. What do you think, Chad? What is it going to do?
Based on my analysis of some other counties, I think it's going to be a 70-30 vote, and it's going to be get rid of the 30%.
Okay, Andy?
I'm going to go 69 because we were in a text thread and y'all put me up against the wall. I had one hit underneath me and one hit below me to the lunch bunch. You guys got me wrong on that one. See, being a leader sometimes doesn't always add up. You step up first. But I will say 69% that'll pass.
Okay, and I'd say 60-40. That's just going off of past ballots that we've had in our local community, taking all of Harvey County because it's not just Newton. Okay, Chad, let's start high. State Senate. Representative Owens is currently running against Jason Miller. What do you think is going to happen on that?
That is the one race where I look at it and say the real question here is how important a singular issue is. And I honestly don't know. That issue is Medicaid expansion. We know how many people want that so badly.
And that's a distinct difference between the two as well.
And
Some people may focus in on that.
That is a massive difference between these two candidates. And because I don't know if people are going to, just to be straight, I don't know if people are going to be willing to break party line over it or not. If they are, honestly, Stephen's in trouble. If they're not, he's going to walk away with it.
Okay, what's your percentages, Chad?
I don't know.
Oh, you got to give something.
I can't because I don't
Chad.
know.
You got to say what you think, how it's going to go. Okay.
So here it is. Too close to call.
Okay. So you'll say 50-50 split.
Right now, I'm just too close to call, man.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Okay. Andy?
I think that's an interesting issue, and I know that the Speaker of the House will not even give that a chance to go upstream. So at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of people know that. Most voters don't know that.
And they may not even care.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it is a hot topic for a lot of voters because of the age group that votes is going to be age group that's looking at that thinking marijuana. It might not be supporting them with some other factors that we can get into, but we won't. Even at that and everything else, and I'm going to be very biased here just because of my personal relationship with one of the candidates, which is Stephen, and some other things. I will say 70-30 in Owens' favor.
Okay. I'm going to say 65-35 in Owens' favor. Okay, next on the thing. 72nd House District. Representative Avery Anderson, the incumbent, or Heidi Hodgkinson? What's your split on that, Chad?
My split is 60-40. Anderson.
Okay. Andy?
I'll say 68 Anderson.
Okay. And I would honestly say probably 75-25. So I'm just and after the removal of North Newton from that 72nd, I'm saying that we're gonna see this is the first time
so new still
without that. So I think it's gonna be quite a bit bigger of a margin on that. Okay.
And by the way, those two candidates both did not respond to my questionnaires.
Oh wow.
Okay. I will give Avery some credit. He's texted me multiple times saying, is it too late? Is it too late? Is it too late? Well, the reality of the fact is they're voting already, buddy, and yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, so, I will say this too.
But I never heard from his opponent at all.
I've been out knocking doors. I don't know how many doors, but been out knocking doors. And there was times I would show up to doors at 9 a.m. and Avery's card would already be on the door. So he was beating me to doors at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So just saying, I know he's been working.
Yep. Okay. So then we've got the 74th, which is Mike King and Ratzliff. I think if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jennifer Ratzliff. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you think on that, Chad?
Because of North Newton, I think she has a little bit of a chance. But I'm putting it at about 58 in favor of King.
Okay, Andy?
He's got way too much name recognition that she doesn't have.
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, his level of experience and kind of the network that he's built over the last two generations of his family and just the know-how, the steady hand on some things. People know who he is because he is who he is. He doesn't pull no punches. I think people respect that. They might not like everything about what he does, but you know what you're going to get. I would give him a 68.
68.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm going to say I'm just right on with Chad. I was going to round up and say 60-40.
And for a time, I went to church with her, so I know her pretty well.
Yeah. It's hard to be young in politics. Let's just say what it is.
But at the end of the day, I mean, here's the reality. Democrats always will have a very uphill fight. Mm-hmm. Very, very uphill fight. And it's awesome that this year that there's a bunch of them on the ballot, but they're going to have an uphill fight.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just the deck is stacked against them.
And then the last one that's more local, do the Harvey County Commission District 2 is between Mark Jenkins and Terry Scott. What do you think is going to happen with that, knowing the district?
Knowing the district and all that it includes, I am going to call an upset, 51-49, Jenkins.
Andy?
Scott and Jenkins. Mm-hmm. Looking at the primary and some other stuff, I think Scott takes that one 65%.
65%?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to say it's straight up for me a toss-up 50-50. I think it will be that close. Looking at past, if you've looked at the last two election cycles and you have a seated incumbent Republican, it's the only thing that's happened is that specific election, which always will coincide with the presidential election, the Republicans have slowly been losing ground. And this last one was only by about 100.
Yes, it was.
Votes.
Yeah, it was very close.
Good point.
And that's why I really struggle with that race.
4 year, yeah.
But knowing that district has, and going back to 1996 in history, right? That district has always been the closest between R and D. And what we have in this one, which you astutely pointed out, is that we do not have a Republican incumbent here. And I'm telling you, Randy Haig, he was sweating in the last race.
And something else I think is different, which will be the flyer, which is that normally in the last times that this has happened, there's not... Well, I suppose there are some cases where this isn't the case. So just saying this loosely, there hasn't been as many Democrats on the ballot before, which are really getting Democrats out to vote for a candidate.
Correct.
Before that wasn't the case. So generally speaking, if maybe there's more things that people can get out and vote for if you're a Democrat, then that might drive people to the polls. Okay, so we are going to go just a little bit late this week on this. I wanted to end on a funny note, so I'm changing some speed here, okay? Are you guys afraid of clowns? Chad, are you afraid of clowns?
It depends. Are we talking about Pennywise?
Actual real clowns. Are you one of the 50% of people?
I'm scared of Pennywise.
Okay. Well, I mean, there was research that was actually done. I thought this was fun. Okay, because there was
Tim
research
Curry
that
was a great Pennywise.
That was done. You can find this on sciencealert.com, and it said scientists figured out why we are terrified of clowns. And I thought that's really interesting because I'm not afraid of clowns. But I know people are, right? And so I thought, well, this is interesting. I'd like to see this breakdown of why people are afraid of clowns. But what was interesting to me was the amount of people that are really afraid of clowns. Are you afraid of clowns, Andy?
A clown is very noticeable. and I carry a pistol, and if something acted weird, it'd be the first thing I shot.
The clown's got to go in the room.
I mean, how do you hide that? At least other people can blend in, and you can kind of. I look for threats everywhere I go, and I even sit in a position where I watch everybody that comes in and out. It's just natural. And if a clown walked in, you ain't getting out of my sight because there's something wrong with you a little bit, unless there's an occasion. And I'm gonna kind of be watching. And so not really.
Not really. No. Well, we're breaking the mold.
Don't move too quick
because of the respondents that were surveyed. Okay, over 50% of people are very afraid. The term "very afraid" is used for clowns, and they broke it down. They went five, and I will say this: disproportionately women over men. And I wondered why that was the case, but I only want to say that it's probably because 9 times out of 10 you're dealing with a male clown. So I'm just going to say that, okay, that might be why it didn't break down why women were more afraid at a higher level than men, but the average came out to be about 51%.
Does Harley Quinn count as a clown?
I got another question.
I'm kind of scared of her.
Who did that?
ScienceAlert.com. So this was.
And are they getting funded by our government $200,000 to figure this out?
In full disclosure, that's not who actually did the research. That was just where it was published.
I bet you somehow we funded that.
I'm
just saying.
You know, it's a grant. It's probably a grant. You know, we hate grants and stuff like that.
You know, there was on a line item for a senator.
Research for clowns.
For a congressman to do something somewhere. No.
Okay, so you guys want to know
what I heard was...
You want to know the 8 reasons that it has listed as why people are afraid of clowns? Okay.
Send it.
Okay. An eerie or unsettling feeling due to clowns' makeup, making them look not quite human. A similar response is sometimes seen with dolls or mannequins. 2. Clowns' exaggerated facial features convey a direct sense of threat. 3. Clown makeup hides emotional signals and creates uncertainty. And down the list. The color of clown makeup reminds us of death, infection, or blood injury and evokes disgust and avoidance. Clowns' unpredictable behavior makes us uncomfortable. Fear of clowns has been learned from family members. Negative portrayals of clowns in popular culture and a frightening experience with a clown. You want to know what I thought was interesting in the common theme on that? When you start going into psychology and whatnot and how we develop as human beings and what areas we focus on in the face to be able to judge whether or not we should have fear in something, fight or flight, all of those things are accentuated in a clown. So like the big smile, the face is one of the first things that an infant communicates with. They look at your mouth rather than your nose or your eyes. And then from there, you know, like dogs, for instance, even wide eyes, big, round, wide eyes. Well, those is another area that's accentuated from clowns. I know we're going off on a tangent. You guys are going to wonder what I'm doing here, okay? But interesting.
I might need some alcohol.
Come on, I brought something.
One.
Okay.
I can hook you up. I got some Johnny Walker.
Well, I was just thinking, and here's the connection. Here's the connection, okay? The connection is this. We're at the height of political prowess and everything that's going on, and in my opinion, it's a clown show.
It is a clown show.
Sure.
It is. I'll agree with that.
All right.
And I will tell you, no matter what happens, my family's going to be straight.
That's so funny. All right. Yeah, welcome to the clown show, folks. That's the most laughable body and organization that we have known to the United States of America is our Congress.
The clown show.
That's all it is. That's all you're watching right now, people, is a clown show. How about this?
They need to all show up in the same car, right?
That would be great.
Do your best, okay? And here's my final word.
Jump into the little pool, and then we'll move the pool out of the way.
And here's my final word.
Bad.
I got 2 things. I want to send a shout out before we get done. I know that, a couple. Just real quick. The Newton Lion Pancake Feed will be held at Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is 421 South Ash, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 6th. So, or November 5th. So when you're going out to vote, make sure you go down there. They do a lot. Their donations support eye exams and glasses for those in need, vision therapy for children in need, Newton High School scholarships, annual Halloween walk and parade of lights, and so much more. So get out there and support your Newton Lions Club by getting a pancake and some sausage and egg and throw some money in the hat for them. The other one is that didn't have time to mention, but I'd like to mention was I saw a wonderful article in the Kansan about the Constitution essay contests and that the winner was named. This is the second time that they've had a Constitution contest, and second year in a row. It's put on by Mike Bellows. He's my precinct committee person. I know him very well. He's a wonderful man and just wants to try to have something created and some money in the pot for some kids, some students within the Harvey County School District to be able to write a Constitution essay. They get a question. A lot of people are there to judge it. I don't know exactly who all is, but the winner was Trek Weedle. He got first. Riley Nye got second, and Hannah Linton got third. So they were a pool of 14 students who participated in the contest, and there was some money up there for them. So that was a good thing. And then on my final word, I'd just like to say, back to this understanding, okay? Yes, election time is upon us. Something tells me it's only going to get worse before it gets better as far as the way people handle this situation and what they will say about people and what they will do in the name of politics. And just remember, folks, not everything you hear is true. Check the source. Go back to what we talked about where the claim is made. You have to have the reason, the warrant, and then the data to prove that that's the case. Remember that all things are off the table. It's all free speech. It's political time. Just be mindful of what you're hearing and what you're believing, and then go out and talk to your neighbor. Regardless of what their political affiliation is or whether you think that they're a certain way or not, because you see a campaign sign in their yard, they're a human being. They have beliefs, feelings, and it's best to try to have a relationship with them as a neighbor and kind of maybe forget about the fact that they don't agree with you on everything political. Andy, what's your final word?
But you have to agree on everything.
Or you're the enemy.
Everything. Excited to be here. It's good to be back. I'm sorry I've been running around doing things, and I'll be gone a lot more the next few months. But at the end of the day, this is a treat to sit down with you guys and go over all this crazy stuff. I'm curious to see what those election predictions will look like when it's all said and done, because nobody ever really knows until it's done. And that's always fun. But
know that I'll probably be wrong on everything.
Yeah, me too.
We probably will.
It'll give us a lot of credibility. Yeah. No, me too. And it's just a crapshoot like everything else, right? But at the end of the day, just love your neighbor, guys. It's hard when you have differences with people to push through, but that's where the good stuff comes out. And so I'm hoping that I can be a better example as I learn and grow in leadership and in my community and for my family and for my businesses. So anyways, appreciate you guys, and thanks for the time. Thanks for inviting me again, Lance.
Absolutely. Chad, what do you got for us?
I'm going to go cranky on my final word this week. Okay. We got Veterans Day coming up. We've got an election coming up. These are really popular times to pull out your American flag and fly it. And that's great. But know your flag code. Seriously, know your flag code, because nothing ticks me off more than people who claim to be patriots and they don't have a clue. And the number one thing that angers me, and I've seen it a lot in the last few days, no flag. None. I don't care what it is, should fly higher than the American flag.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this program, and we'll catch you next week.